Good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to our first webinar of the academic year for our newest students in Year 9. I'm very pleased to be joined by Nick Gibson, who is our head of Year 9, who's just stepped out of an English lesson. So thank you very much for joining us, Nick. We're going to present today on a range of areas, very much like our induction for our students, an induction for you as parents, about all the kinds of things, the daily routines, the expectations, and the activities and things to look forward to for our Year 9 students. So without further ado, I'll get going. There is a Q&A function. You should be able to see a button that says Q&A. Please feel free to enter questions there at any point, and we'll address these at the end of the session. But similarly, if there is any follow-up questions or queries, then feel free to reach out either to me or to Nick at any time. So when we look back to induction and the start of term, it's been a really busy September and a wonderful opportunity to welcome our new students. So Nick's going to tell you a bit more about the kinds of activities that we've undertaken so far.
Yeah, so at the start of term, we obviously welcome all of our students. It takes a bit of time for everyone to settle into their rooms and to work out the school, explore the school. We tried to get some activities that would be team building and good opportunities for the students to get to know each other in a relaxed setting. So there was our STEM day, where we had an external company in to run our science day, where the students work together to solve problems, to use scientific methods. I think that one was a really quite fun, quite boisterous bonding day. We also, very simply, we took the students around the local area just to show them, where they are in this beautiful rural setting, and walk around the village and get a sense of their bearings and to orientate. And that kind of linked in with how boarding takes students into Brighton on weekends as well, so they can really get to know the area. And it's just a lot of induction and orientation, making sure students are comfortable, know where they are, know who to talk to, have met myself, the head of year, the strategy tutors, the boarding team. There was a lot of activities that made sure that we had a solid grounding to begin.
Thank you. Yeah. And we mentioned Saturdays on the slide there. Of course, we'll talk a little bit this morning about assessment for Year 9. But we've had some wonderful Saturday workshops. Last Saturday, we enjoyed amazing blue skies, and Year 9 were doing a photography competition. And I've got the happy task of judging their entries, and there's some brilliant compositions. And Nick, you ran a creative writing workshop with Year 9, and I understand they're a really talented group of writers.
Yes. So the week before that, we had this Gothic writing workshop. Which was a lot of fun, sort of spooky writing, and we got some great results out of that. And then the week before that as well, they prepared themselves for one of the Nord Anglia online writing competitions. So there's been quite a writing heavy focus for their Saturdays from the start of term. But yes, there's various things taking place on Saturday. Upcoming is a litter pick, in fact. Beach litter pick and village litter pick this coming Saturday. And then after that is a Dragon's Den style activity. So they're really getting a wide range and a very different range than, just the curriculum, something that's quite different on their Saturday activities for Year 9.
Thank you. It's obviously really important, especially for our newest students, to ensure that they know where to go for help and who to ask for and what kind of support is available for them. Within the boarding team, there's a central student services area which students can go to, and that might be for IT support, it might be a question about medical help, or it might be just a kind of day-to-day processes question. And so students know where to do that and how to use that. We have a counsellor who's here 4 days a week. Students can self-refer to see her, or there might be an incident, which means that a staff member recommends that they go and see her, and that needs to be obviously it's optional. We don't force students to do that, but once they've met Claire, they tend to go there all the time because she creates a very warm and supportive environment for our students. And Nick's going to tell you a little bit more about what the strategy tutor's role is and how that works in Year 9.
Yeah, absolutely. So we say that the strategy tutor is every student's first point of contact. It's definitely the person they see first in the morning, every morning for registration. and then at lunchtime registration as well. So it really is for our students, the person we want them to feel that they can take anything to, that they're comfortable with, that they feel very well supported by. We'll do a program of activities in every strategy every morning. For example, this morning was very simple, just read. So students brought their own books and read for 20 minutes, which is a nice calm start to the day. Lunchtimes may be a bit different. It might be a chance to check up on emails or check any queries that have come up throughout the day. But that first point of contact is always a strategy tutor for, for your school issues, for any pastoral issues in school. It's key that a strong bond is built there. A really key part of that as well is the one-to-one meetings that take place. So each student meets their strategy tutor for a lunch meeting, or perhaps a longer meeting if needs be, every 2 to 3 weeks, and more if needed. And that's a dedicated sit-down meeting to talk about academics, specific classes, specific challenges, future plans, which becomes more and more key, I suppose, in year 10 and 11, but making sure that year 9 as well are starting to think about their pathway here at OICB. So there's a lot that the strategy tutor does to work with their tutees every day. And then my role as head of year is to support that, and to have overview of the year, to take care of anything that's going above the strategy tutor in terms of organisation or administration or academics. That's the role of our strategy tutor here.
Well, I think year 9 are very lucky this year to have both you and some fantastic strategy tutors on the team. So they've really got a good support network around them. I thought it'd be worth just showing you the student code of conduct which students sign up to, and you can see therefore what the expectations are for our students around college. I don't know, Nick, if there's any of those specifically that you'd like to raise awareness of, but these are things that we work with the students to ensure is happening day to day for all students.
No, I think a lot of them are very self-explanatory. I think using English as the common language of our college community is something we're really encouraging, and I think year 9 so far have proved themselves to be quite good at bonding in this way and making sure to use English. There's a real temptation, I suppose, to fall back into home languages and the comfort of them, but year 9 are proving a good year in this respect.
Absolutely. And in terms of daily routines, again, as Nick said, part of the induction process is to ensure that students really get into that routine and know what to do and where to be. They're all very firmly in that routine now, and you can see what the shape of the school day looks like from this slide. Lots of double lessons, so quite often periods 1 and 2 say will be one subject as a double period, taught that way, and a degree of moving around the college, moving around the campus, and making sure that there's a level of independence in terms of punctuality and organisation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the GCSE, the pre-GCSE, programme for year 9. It really is designed to prepare students to undertake those GCSE courses from year 10 onwards, without losing any of the breadth of the curriculum that we think is really important for this age group. And so we do that through both the breadth of academic lessons on offer, but also, of course, the super curriculum, the Saturday workshops that Nick's already referred to. So we're looking at developing the skills that best prepare our students for GCSE success in future, but also the wider skills that we want to see our students developing, whether that's critical thinking or teamwork, collaboration, language skills. There's also an element in which year 9 needs to be able to try subjects. Many of our students won't have studied before, and so they're making an informed decision about the GCSE optional subjects that they will want to do. And we have the conversation with year 9 about those optional subjects in January, so the start of term 2. And for most of our year 9s, that will be 4 optional subjects alongside the core. Year 9 sciences are taught as 3 separate sciences. And again, this is something that's often really quite new for a lot of our students because they won't necessarily have studied the sciences before, or not as formally, or not in 3 separate sciences. But it's something that we know is a real strength here, and our students respond really well to. So you can see the subjects here that are taught and timetabled for all of our Year 9 students. And within those, I hope you can see the level of breadth and opportunity for them to explore the subjects which become optional from Year 10 onwards. And you can also see there the way that maths and English are grouped by ability, and as I mentioned, science is being taught separately. A good example of the kind of process we go through in these first weeks of term is where students perhaps present as finding, as feeling that they're not in the right group for English or maths. And so this is the kind of conversation that they have with their strategy tutor, with Nick, and with the relevant head of department. And then we perhaps explore moving them, or we give them an opportunity to move groups. So for example, in the second language and first language English group, we do have admissions testing, and we've screened students' use of English before they arrive. But we sometimes find that students say, actually, I think I'd be happier in a different English group. And we usually are able to accommodate that request and ensure that students are in the right groups for those core subjects. Assessment and reporting, really important for you as parents, and I know it's something, especially if you're perhaps overseas, to kind of see how your students are progressing in their subjects. So from Year 10 onwards, our students have regular assessments we call skits. It's a really core part of our programme here, and it does mean that our students are really brilliantly well prepared for external examination. So I was talking about the assessment programme for Year 9, and the way in which their grade points are assessed, reported to parents. So 4 times a term, students are going to be given, in fact, they've had the first set already, they're given grades per subject, and these are reported to you as parents on the parent portal. There are a range of ways in which different subjects award these grades. They're teacher assessed grades, but they're often based on a single point of assessment, and Nick can give you some examples of those. But they might be based on a series of pieces of work, or indeed a project that's been ongoing during that grading period. More formal assessments take place twice a term: midterms, which we have the week of the 21st of October, and end of term assessments the week of the 9th of December. And again, these grades are reported to you on the parent portal. Hopefully you've been able to access the parent portal. You can see lots of useful information on there, like your child's timetable and so on. And you'll be able to see these grade points. Those are starting to be uploaded now from this current cycle, and a focus area. So we give students targets in each of their subjects. And then for midterm and end of term assessments, there'll also be a UMS reported, which is a standardized score out of 100, so that you can look at them comparatively across different assessments and also across different subjects. Nick, did you want to give some examples of the types of things that are being used by subjects for Year 9 assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, as well as head of year, I'm also teaching about half of Year 9 English, and working with the head of department, Kay, who is teaching the other half of Year 9 English. We are coming up with testing and assessment that is relevant and accurate and challenging for our students where they are at that moment. For example, our first one was a summary writing task based on an unseen text. So something to get students into the flow of the testing experience here at OICB. I know that other classes and subjects have been using things like just general testing in maths, quizzing. There's been writing tasks in, I think, geography. So they're really, teachers are able to assess Year 9 in the way that's most appropriate and relevant to them, in between the more formal midterms and end of terms that will take place, where they'll be assessed, I suppose, more on the content of the course.
Here at OICB, we have a range of both GCSEs and IGCSEs for our Year 11 candidates. And so we have some grades reported in letters and some reported in numbers 9 to 1. As a result, the subjects will follow that same method of grading that best suits their subject. And so you may see a range of numbers and letters, and we're very happy to provide charts to help explain what they mean relative to one another. Because of the nature of the assessment, where you're being assessed on a particular module of work, you might see some up and down, and we would expect that to be quite normal. There'll be areas, for example, in maths, where a student has found this particular unit of work really accessible, they're doing really well. Perhaps the next unit of work they actually struggle with, it's a slightly more difficult topic for them. And so you may see some fluctuation in grades, and there are obvious points at which you can speak to teachers and speak to the subject specialists to kind of find out what's needed. But rest assured that the system we use means that we have really good opportunities for students to check in with the strategy tutor and look at that data all the time and talk about how they're progressing in their subject. I wanted to share this testimonial from one of our now Year 10 students, and it's a really good example of the way the curriculum develops as the students get older. This is a student who has been really interested in law, and we look at the way in which that might manifest in the super curriculum and programme for our Year 9 students. So in this case, it was meeting the High Sheriff of East Sussex. And then in Year 10, going to the coroner's court actually tomorrow to see a case. So we really try and adapt and develop the programme to meet students' needs at different ages. I thought worth also talking to you about the way that communications work, so you can be clear on how to have up-to-date information. Obviously, webinars like this are really important for our parents, and you will receive newsletters every Friday about what's been going on around campus. The students use Teams. Their teachers set work on Teams. There is a channel for their year group in which they receive weekly notices. You can see an example of that on screen, and so they can see what's coming up in the week ahead. You have access to the parent portal where you can see, as I mentioned, timetables and newsletters and grades. Students have access to their student portal on which they can see their merits and demerits, and they can see their timetable and so on. Nick runs weekly assemblies for Year 9, which I often join in with, and that's a really important opportunity both for notices but also for exploring areas of interest or topical areas. And we have a programme called Involve, which as parents you will have been sent a login to, which tracks students' supercurricular options and participation. And that would also include things like music lessons or additional language lessons. And so that also is a way of seeing what the students are doing, what they've signed up for, and what range of activities they're involved in.
Yeah, I know that the students are particularly keen on tracking their merits on the student portal and seeing how well they're doing.
The supercurricular programme we've touched upon, it's a really exciting way of exploring everything that sits outside of the standard curriculum. And we use it in our future-focused approach to ensure that students are developing the kinds of skills that they need to meet their future goals. Now, we're aware that lots of Year 9 students might not yet have a very specific idea in mind, although actually many of them do. And so the supercurricular programme means that they can develop their skills and that they can explore a whole range of new activities and experiences. And that includes clubs and activities and sports, academic extension, academic support, but also trips and visits and visiting speakers, and develops towards university preparation and readiness as our students progress through the college. You can see here the activities that run every day between 4:40 and 5:30 that our students are signed up for. And Nick, I'm sure that you've seen Year 9 getting very widely involved with a lot of these clubs.
Yeah, not only that, Year 9 seem to be leading the way in running their own student-led clubs. So that's another aspect of our supercurricular is, yes, there's programs run by teachers and specific ones, but there is a option for students to create their own clubs. And this is something that's really coming through with Year 9 at the moment with football, which is fantastic. But there's talk of other clubs being made as well. So yeah, Year 9 are really embracing this.
Great. And this also would include the kinds of trips and visits we mentioned. We mentioned the STEM activity that students did recently as well. Every Thursday, the super curriculum has a particular structure, which is that we divide all students into 3 career pathways, as you can see on screen. And we're quite unusual here in that we start this from the very beginning of year 9. So all of our students have selected one of the 3 pathways, and they do really specialist activities within their groups. Year 9 and year 10 are often grouped together. And we would see, for example, they were doing a coding workshop for the physical science and mathematics group last Thursday. They have visiting speakers to talk about things like ethics or law for the social science and humanities pathway. They had a special economics workshop. It's a really good opportunity for year 9 to learn more about subjects like economics and business, which don't appear on the year 9 curriculum yet. And in the healthcare and biological science, there's a lot of often practical and lab work to supplement what happens in science lessons. So it's a really exciting programme. We anticipate that younger students may switch and change between these pathways, and that's absolutely fine. We might have students who are interested in quite varied potential career paths, and therefore they're not necessarily easily slotting into one of these pathways. And again, that's something that they can explore with Nick or with our head of careers, and go to the activities that best suit them as they better understand what it is that they might be interested in doing in future. We use a platform called Unifrog that is an opportunity for students to learn about different career pathways, look at the content and the entry requirements for different university courses, and start to log the skills and experiences that they're having to develop. So they begin that in year 9. As they get further towards university application, they've got this really amazing record of everything that they've done and learned and experienced towards those future university applications. And a very nice picture of Nick explaining on screen.
Yes, thank you for that, Tess. Yeah.
Nick mentioned the first year 9 student-led clubs. We have student-led clubs run by our older students as well, very motivated. We've got a group of students at the moment doing a charity project involving international foods. We have a very involved animal welfare charity that's student-run, and they do fundraising, as well as the additional sports and opportunities that fit into that group of clubs and societies, as you've seen on screen. We're very fortunate in Nord Anglia to have this opportunity of collaborations with the broader Nord Anglia organisation and their partners. These include MIT in Massachusetts in the US. So the MIT programme means that our students are given challenges by MIT specialists. The most recent one has been launched by our MIT lead, who's one of our science teachers. And year 9, of course, have a STEM lesson designated to these projects in their timetable. And that explores loads of really interesting, often quite kind of cutting edge areas of scientific work and research. And one of the things that the MIT programme is renowned for is the interdisciplinary element of sciences. So where perhaps biology and physics or chemistry and engineering meet. And that's a really exciting field. So our year 9 students will have an opportunity to apply for in future to go on an MIT student-led trip. And we have 3 students going this coming October Enrichment Week with members of staff to join with students from all over the Nord Anglia network of schools all over the world. And so that's a really exciting opportunity. So in year 9, it's school-led projects. And as they go through the school, it becomes opportunities to apply to actually go to MIT in person, which is quite a selective process, but one that we really encourage our students to engage with. There's also a fantastic UNICEF collaboration, which I'll let Nick explain because he's directly involved from our campus.
Yes, yeah, it really is quite the opportunity. It's connecting with all of the Nord Anglia schools worldwide. So of the something like 78, more than half of the schools were there. And it was last year hosted in Houston, at the British International School of Houston. And it was a chance for students to come together to debate the sustainable goals, to come up with plans that were context relevant. So to our area here in Ovingdean, our students, with very little input from me, were able to decide what is the area that we want to start to move our school in, what are the challenges that we have here that we need to try and address. And beyond that, it was also this incredible opportunity for students to work on public debate and public speaking and ways of organising and presenting information and arguing. And it was a really unique opportunity that students were able to take part in, and it's something that students in Year 9, perhaps in the future, will be able to participate in as well.
Yeah, it's aimed, isn't it, at Year 10 and 12 students. So
Yeah.
we hope to see Year 9 students getting involved in the projects with UNICEF and applying in future to go on the UNICEF summit.
Absolutely.
The slide shows our Duke of Edinburgh team in the summer heading out into the hills. Our Year 9 students have already had opportunities to go for local hikes in the area, both for orientation, but also as a really lovely opportunity to exercise and explore the local area. And we're confident that they will also be wanting to undertake Duke of Edinburgh awards. We wanted to talk a little bit about what makes a really successful Year 9 student here at OICB. And I think it's really interesting. There's not a one size fits all, of course there's not. But I think we've seen the kinds of characteristics and attributes and skills that we want our Year 9 students to develop to really thrive here. So Nick, perhaps you'd like to tell us a bit more about their study habits.
Yeah, so as Tess mentioned, the SKIP programme doesn't really kick in fully until Year 10, but we're very much encouraging Year 9 students to treat it already like they have these regular assessments, they've got a lot of work to do. Yeah, so Year 9 students already are encouraged to have those independent study habits. They have, at the moment, just 2 periods per week of supervised study, and that's a really nice transition from obviously the younger years when you're in Year 7 and 8 and you perhaps haven't got any space in your timetable for individual study, to then take that time to study and then continue that in the evening as well during our study periods in the evening, to really prepare them for the start of the GCSE course in Year 10 and 11, where while they might have a bit more spare time in their timetable, they are fully expected to use that in the most intelligent ways, always studying. So that's something that's really supported there in terms of study habits in Year 9 here.
Yeah. And we see that development of organisation, increasing independence, wanting to know how best to use your time. I was reviewing their prep time in the evening yesterday, and we have students who choose to go and do music practice at that time. We have students who choose to be based in the library to work on something independently at that time, and others who are choosing to be very much focused on work that's been set by their teachers during the day. And it's really important that they're doing that kind of pre-university work, really kind of managing their own time. But of course, we support where we see that a student hasn't quite developed that level of independence yet.
Yeah.
I think making the most of being in a multicultural environment is hugely important. We're really aware that our students are coming from all kinds of different schools and environments and backgrounds, nationalities. Some will be very familiar with being in a very diverse international environment and others less so. And so there are obvious practical steps like using English as a common language, getting to know what the norms are in Brighton, crossing the road, what are local laws and so on. But also more importantly, and we've spoken to students quite a lot about this in assemblies in this first part of term, how you benefit from understanding, getting to know, working alongside people whose experiences of life so far are completely different to your own. as a staff body, our experiences have tended to be that it's not until you go to university that you're lucky enough to work alongside, study alongside, be friends with people from lots and lots of different nationalities. For our OIC Brighton students, they have this experience from year 9. You know, they got years of advantage ahead of most people who start university fresh from a more local environment. And so it's really getting the students to understand the advantages of that, step out of their comfort zone in terms of wanting to stick with people who are perhaps from a similar background to their own, and really encouraging them through the kinds of activities that Nick's been describing, to learn from and learn with people who have different experiences and ideas to their own. And that diversity is a real source of strength and really exciting for our young people to experience. And all of this and the super curriculum that we've been describing really helps our students to discover what it is that makes them tick, what's their particular passion. We have some really passionate students here, and in year 9 we've got students who already show real leadership qualities, really wanting to impact the college, to lead on something or to contribute their passion to something that we see within the college community. They have opportunities to go to Wednesday lectures with students who are talking about a very specific area of their study that they're particularly passionate about. And so the more that our students expose themselves to all of this interest and excitement around them, the more that will help them to work out what kind of a student they want to be, what kind of field they want to go into, and what it is that they really want to champion or develop as they go through their studies with us here at OICB. And finally, we're approaching questions. So I'd really like to encourage you to please put your questions into the Q&A function if you have the opportunity to do so. So just a few notes really about what's coming up. We have our first house competitions, fast evolving. So all students are in one of the competition houses. These are named after pioneering figures from history, from science, and the first competition will be volleyball competition. We have a cross-country competition in November, which I'm afraid will probably be rather cold and muddy, and we have a chess competition in this first term as well, and I think we've got some very competitive chess players in year 9. We have events such as Space Week next week, which has been launched in today's assemblies. We have a planetarium coming next week, as well as a nighttime stargazing activity if the weather allows. We have an Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Committee who run activities around Black History Month this month, and we celebrate World Children's Day in November. You will have received information about Enrichment Week. If your student, your child chooses to stay on campus over Enrichment Week, then in year 9 they will be involved in a range of activities, from ProEd, which is a very kind of careers focused organisation that come and run activities for students on site, a day trip for climbing and to Hever Castle, which is a wonderful historical site not far from here, and a day out to the London Museum. So for year 9 students who choose to stay on campus, they're expected to do all of the daily activities on offer during Enrichment Week. Plans are underway for a Christmas concert. I hope that some of our year 9 students are going to be involved in those performances, and if they are coming home in Enrichment Week, they might want to pick up their musical instrument. Later in the year, year 9 really lead the way for a lot of our cultural activities. They have the drama production in the summer, an art exhibition in a beautiful local space also in the summer. And there are international trip opportunities as well. There'll be a skiing trip in Europe in February Enrichment Week. There'll be a geography focused, but not only for geographers, trip to Iceland in the Easter break, in the spring break in April. So those are just for you to have on your radar, but lots of exciting opportunities for our year 9 students. And it's such a great year to say yes to everything while they have that breadth of opportunity prior to the GCSE courses beginning in year 10. So thank you very much for your time today. And do, as I say, post any questions that you might have for us in the Q&A, and we will do our best to answer them.
Yes, absolutely. And while the question is being posted, I think there's a theatre trip coming up as well in November for year 9 to a local one for a bit of musical theatre. So there's a lot of space for relaxation and fun as well.
Is that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
It is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, yes. So that's coming up for year 9 too.
And there's an opportunity through the Southern Schools Book Awards within the English department that's very year 9 focused as well, Nick.
There absolutely is, yeah, and that'll be taking place, I think, February as well. We will have a visit from the author. So the Southern Schools Book Award is an English book award, happens every year, where we make sure in English to read about 4 or 5 of the books that are shortlisted to possibly win. This last year we went to the Southern Schools Book Award, which was at a school nearby, and we took about 5 or 6 year 9 students last year to there to meet the authors, to get their books signed, to ask questions, to take part in a really interesting presentation on, how they wrote their books, what challenges they had, why they wrote them, that sort of thing. It was a really, really inspiring evening for our year 9s last year. So we are going to be replicating that again around February, and that's a year 9 focus, also a very heavy English focus as well. So it unfortunately won't be every year 9 student, but every year 9 student will benefit from one of the authors coming into the school and running a workshop, in fact.
Thank you. Well, as I say, thank you so much for your time and attention. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to Nick or to myself, and we will do our best to answer those. And as mentioned, the strategy tutor really is a great first point of call. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Tess.